Hi, this is Chip Hardwick. I'm the exec for the Synod of the Covenant. I want to welcome you to the third week, the final week of It's Not Just Sundays, this workshop with the Reverend Dr. Javon Caldwell Gross. I'm so glad that each of you are here on Zoom, and also everyone who will be watching this later. I know that there are many who are watching this, although they can't be here at the right time, which is really the theme of the workshop, that we need to be able to offer opportunities whenever people are able to take advantage of them. So Javon, we're learning from you and we're grateful for you. Reverend Javon Caldwell Gross is a pastor in the Methodist tradition. He serves a large church in Indianapolis, but has also served smaller churches along the way. And he is a former student of mine. So it gives me such pride to see him leading us and stretching us and encouraging us in this way. So let me open us in prayer and I'll turn it over to you, Javon.
Great, sounds good.
Gracious God, thank you so much for this workshop. Thank you so much for the ways that we can grow and serve you more faithfully. God, that's what we want to do. And we pray this workshop will help. Thank you for preparing Javon and preparing each participant here. And I pray, oh God, that there would be rich conversation. And by the end of the time, we would look more and more like Jesus Christ than we do now at its beginning. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
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 Chip, you did say this was a recording. Oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it.
Yep.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, well, let's start here tonight. I know that we pretty much ran close to the time for the last two sessions. And so I really just want to take an opportunity just to start off by answering some questions that you might have from the first two sessions, or maybe some things that you've been thinking about. And then we will move into two parts tonight. The first part will be after we get finished with our questions and comments, we'll move to more of a presentational style that I just want to sort of wrap it up a little bit. And then we're going to move to really do some workshopping in terms of by the time that we leave here tonight, that you'll really have some practical things that you might be able to take home, even if it's just one or two things. Again, this is not dictated on size of congregation or age of congregation. I think our ability to do ministry well in a new context is an opportunity, I think, for all of us. And so we will learn from each other tonight. Something as simple, I'll have you really identify maybe a target audience that you think that God might be calling you to reach. And then thinking about some of the critical concerns that they might be having, and then developing some things that might help from that, given our list we talked about on last week. So let me just start off with just maybe some questions or comments that maybe you might have had, and we'll spend a few minutes on those. Because again, I know we ran right up until the time. And so I wanted to give some room for that today.
Yvonne, I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Shoot up at me.
Well, last Sunday after service, I did a video of the preview of my sermon for coming Sunday.
Oh, it's a great idea. Mm-hmm.
And it was less than 2 minutes. I posted it on my personal Facebook page. And then another person posted it on our YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then another person posted it on our church Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, my personal Facebook grew about 474 views.
Wow.
As compared to our church, I think about 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then our YouTube, maybe around 2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think is maybe the problem with our church's YouTube and then the church's Facebook account?
Well, without even looking at this is one, let me just say, that's a phenomenal way to start off today, because let me ask you this, in dollars, how much did it cost you to do that?
Nothing. Nothing.
Well, let me ask you again. Maybe you didn't understand what I was saying. Maybe I asked the question. I didn't ask the question correctly. Um, how much currency did it take to pull off what you did?
Oh, I called one of the church members and I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do from now on. Just can you hold my iPhone
Yeah.
at my office? And then if you have time, we can do this.
Great.
And
Great.
then that's all.
That is a great example, because a lot of times when we're having these conversations, people often get stuck at either money or volunteers. And what a great way to connect with the audience that you've already captured, after Sunday morning. Here's what we have coming up or next week. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the shows that you watch on TV, that is exactly what they do. So at the end of the show, they've already captured you, but now they want to give you a small teaser of what you might have to look forward to. Again, you don't have to be a large church to do that. I don't think it cost Ebenezer, like he said, it didn't cost any money. All it cost was one volunteer to hold the camera, and it was a 2-minute video that on his personal page got 475 views, which I think is really great for, because a lot of times you talk about sermon recaps, but to do sort of a sermon teaser. And the difference is oftentimes with social media, and my first impression would be, you probably have a more active audience on your personal page than you do through your churches. You probably post more on your churches. You probably have more connections, more friends. And so it's just probably more active. In fact, my church often makes fun of me because I will post, we have a 6,000 member church, and I will post something on my page and get tons of engagement, and it won't get as much engagement on the church. It's just in terms of what, how much engagement you have and how much engagement there is with the people who are watching with your church's page. And also what we've noticed is that my audience is very different than the church's audience.
That's true.
So what reaches, and my social media director has actually noticed that. So there are some things that really do well on my page that doesn't do well on the church's page. So you actually have to know your audiences, which is why I think, and we're going to go through a process tonight so you can know that, because every audience responds to just very different things. But I think when you know that, and I think that's something that's very innovative to do, that's a great way. Ebenezer, thank you so much for just sharing that, because I think you might be giving some people ideas tonight of different ways that they might be able to connect with different audiences and to re-engage the audience that they already have. What a great way. In fact, I'm going to use your idea coming up shortly. I think that's a phenomenal idea to do.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any more questions or anything that you've been mulling over for the last couple of weeks? Nothing? Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. So I want to pick up somewhat in a place where we left off on last week. And then kind of do, so if you remember, let me just share. I don't think I started sharing. So let's do this. I've got to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
So remember, this is the critical question that we're going after today, that we've really been talking about over the last 3 weeks, is how does your congregation add value to your audience 7 days a week? And so tonight we're really going to be looking at really clarifying your audience, clarifying certain values so that you can kind of get a handle on it. so that you can come away with tonight with some very specific things. So I want to just look at a few things in terms of target. I think I just passed it. In terms of your target audience. And so tonight we're just going to talk about this a little bit. So if you already don't have a pen or piece of paper or something to write on, I invite you to go get something you can take notes with. And then we're going to do some workshopping together and share and really come away with some practical things. And some of this stuff doesn't have to be etched in stone, but I really want to go through a process so you can actually see what this is like in real time. See what this is like in real time. So does everybody have something to write with?
Yes.
All right. And then we're going to, as we talk, we're going to share our answers so that you can see the diversity, and so that we can possibly learn from each other. Again, we're looking at how do we add value, to your congregation, to your audience, because I think there are two ways that I think all of us can do more effectively considering this new context of ministry. And that's how do we reach people? How do we reach more people? How do we reach new people in our community? I mean, our goal is to not only help more people to become like Jesus Christ, but to live out the Great Commission, right? How do we be actively present where people are and introduce people to the radical love of Jesus Christ? So how do we do that with new people? And then how do we keep our current congregation engaged? So I want to start off with this question. We talked a little bit about it last week, but we're actually going to go through it today. And these are just some questions that I often ask people when they say, "What's your target audience?" Is just to kind of go through a series of questions. So I don't want you to take a long time on these questions. Just want you to take about a minute on each. Again, it's not anything written in stone. It's just to get the wheels turning a little bit. So I want you to think about who is naturally drawn to your ministry. Right. I want you to somewhat describe the people that are naturally drawn to your ministry. What do they look like? What are their age? Are they churched? Are they unchurched? What socioeconomic group do they come from? Blue collar workers, white collar workers? Are they educated? What level of education do they have? Is it are most of them are they former Presbyterians or former Catholics, former evangelicals? Find a way in a couple sentences or a couple bullet points, and then I'm gonna just go around and ask you just sort of share those a little bit and very quickly, just so you can see what this looks like. So take a second to just write down and jot some notes. And when you're done, just give me sort of a hands up. Okay. All right, everybody pretty much done with that one? All right, so here's a question. Now, it might be the same question, or it might be the same answer, and it might be a different one. So describe the people that you think that God is calling you to reach in this season. Now, it might be the same thing as who you're naturally drawn to, and it might be different. So just take about a minute to answer that. Describe them. You believe that, and I would tell you that sometimes those things change depending on the season you're in ministry. I was doing a workshop with a group of recent seminary grads this yesterday. Actually, I was doing a retreat with them, and one of the mentors got really upset with me because I made a distinction between, I told them the people who are naturally drawn to your congregation may not be the people that God is calling you to reach in this season of your ministry. And man, she really got on me. And so I gave her the example of what we had in Hamilton. My first church had 27 people, and the people who were naturally drawn to our ministry did not represent the community that we were in. And so we had to make the decision. I mean, most of the people that we had in our congregation were very church. They were Methodists. 70% of the congregation was over the age of 65, but that did not represent our community. And so the people who are naturally drawn to our church were just not the people that God was calling us to serve. So now, for some of you, they might be the same. I want you to describe them. Okay, now I want you to answer this question, considering the audience that you believe that God is calling you to reach, specifically the audience that you believe that God is calling you to reach in this season. What are the major questions they have about life and faith? Give me at least 3 questions that you believe that they are having about life and faith. Three critical questions. Yeah, I'm not gonna give you long to answer. Just it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. All right. Done with that one. Now I want you to answer, who are the voices of authority in this group? So the group that you believe that God is calling you to serve, who are the voices of authority? Who do they listen to? Is it certain news stations? Is it certain entertainers? Is it educators? Who are the voices of authority that they're listening to? Is it religious leaders? If I was at St. Mark's, I would say, one of the people, everybody in our congregation loved T.D. Jakes. T.D. Jakes said it was so. Another church I served, a name like Cornel West or an academic name carried a lot of weight. Our bishops and district superintendents were were voice of authority in the congregation. Now, out in the community, the people that we were trying to reach had very different voices of authority. They didn't care what our bishop said, right? So the people that you're trying to reach, who are their voices of authority? Who do they listen to get these questions?
Yvonne?
Yes.
I'm thinking about the first question because I don't know what exactly to share. But about 3 weeks ago, a guy joined our church. He attended our worship. The following Saturday, we had a work day, and he came. He participated in it.
Okay. Yes.
This week, I believe yesterday, I had a conversation with him, and he wanted to join our church. But when you look at him, he was formerly a Catholic. And so he said that, well, I'm not used to the style of worship here, but I like your message. And because of that, he wanted to become a member of our church.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at it, there are a lot of people searching for authentic spirituality, how they will really connect with Jesus Christ. And I will describe him as someone who a new resident to our community.
Sure, that's a great yes. That's a great yes. That's good. That's good. I mean, if you identified in one of your a specific to your audience that you're trying to reach as new residents, oh my gosh, think of the things that you could add value to new residents in your community. You know, what are the type of things that new residents are looking for? So yeah, I think that's a great you know, for a church like St. Luke's, we attract former Catholics and former evangelicals. It's very clear. That is the audience that is naturally drawn to us. In some ways, people that have been hurt by the church for some odd reason. So Ebenezer, I think that's good. That's a great place to start. So we're going to go through this last question, and then I'm going to show you another slide, and I want you to answer a few questions. So what's their age and their life stage, spiritual condition? You know, give me, where do you think they're at in their faith? Are they church, unchurched, things like that? I'll share another slide with you. Because now I want you to talk about their values, but I'm going to show you I'll show you a list that will help you do this. So I want you to get two lists together. Share screen. There we go. Can everyone see that those lists of values where it says core values list? So on one side, now I want you to choose between 3 and 5. On one side, I want you to choose 3 to 5 values of your current congregation, 3 to 5 values. And then I want you to choose 3 to 5 values of the people that you are trying to reach. 3 to 5 values of the people that you are trying to reach. So think about, you know, look at some of the, you know, are you justice, congregate, it was openness, patriotism, popularity, like influence? What do you think your congregation values, right? Recognition, spirituality, service. And then on the other side, choose 3 to 5 values of their audience that you named that you believe God is calling you to serve. So just take about a minute just to look at those. And I know this might be hard, but it doesn't, you're not gonna, because some of these I can choose about 8 of them, but I just want the top 3 and 5. Yeah, this doesn't have to be written in stone, but things like, you know, is the audience you're trying to reach achievement oriented? Somebody else trying to get in. There we go. Somebody just came on. There we go. Hey, Down. We're looking at this list, and we're making a list to see choosing 3 to 5 values of the audience we believe that God is calling us to serve, and then 3 to 5 values that we believe that represent the current congregation that we're in at the moment. So just take about we'll give Don a few more minutes to look to not a few more minutes, but just a little bit to look at the list, and then we'll. Don, how about if I leave the list up for you as people keep talking? So listen, take about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to have you share some highlights of your list. Then we're going to go through some practical things. I want you to keep your list, We're going to go through some practical things, and then we're going to go back to your list and sort of create, starting to create sort of this hybrid strategy of ministry. See, how many people do we have on the line? 1, 2. Okay, good enough. Okay, so what I'm going to have each of you do is just to take about, take no more than 2 minutes. If we go longer than 2 minutes, then that'll take about half hour. So, what I want you to do is just give some highlights quickly of your audience. Tell us about your audience, what they value. Just give us an idea of the people that you believe that God is calling you to serve in this season. And I'm going to just call you in order of how you show up on my screen. Is that okay for everybody? All right. So, Lydia, you are first on my screen.
I'm telling you about the people we're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think they're looking for justice. I think they're looking for a way to serve. I think they're looking for a sense of community, connectedness, religion, and love.
Mm-hmm. And what about? Tell us a little bit more about them. What is their age, education? Give us a few more specifics.
Okay. Age. What we have been attracting has been like 30 or above, and that's the most recent people that we've attracted. Persons, 1 or 2, whatever they were. Age. But all kind, blue collar, college educated. It's been a little bit of both. And I can't think of the other thing you said. So
no, that's good. That's good. Thank you, Lydia. James Walker, I've got you on deck.
Well, as far as our church, I think they're pretty well achievers, or they value achievement. They're compassionate. Their faith is important. Friendships, compassion and kindness go together, I guess. Spirituality. As far as the community, racially, it's a mixed community, probably half and half for the communities right around our church. I think our church is in one community which has a reputation of being an interracial community, so it has a larger percentage of Black, but they're all interracial communities. Pretty much average income. I wouldn't say low income, not high income, sort of in the middle of the road. But our younger families, people looking for livability within the city, close to the downtown or where they might work. Probably a very small percentage on food stamps. So that's my general survey.
Very good. Hopefully you all are noticing some differences right away. You're noticing some differences right away. That's very good. Okay, Ebenezer, I've got you up next.
Yeah, I think the people that God is calling us to minister this time, the people who are really facing numerous challenges. At the same time, they are seeking community and then looking forward for friendship. I find it difficult to ask people about their background because that can easily scare them. So I try to be quite naive, and then until the person will open up and tell me about himself or herself, I don't really go that way. So I don't know, even this guy that I'm talking about, I don't know his background. I don't know anything about him.
Okay. Well, what about the audience that you believe that God is calling you to reach? Do you have any ideas of maybe some particulars of who they might be? Or I'm gonna tell you why this is important. Tell you why this is important. Or would you say even with that group, you have a little bit of difficulty with narrowing down some of their background as well?
Yeah. So this guy is white.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. He's white and I'm black, but he doesn't care about it. He loves me. We talk. And so I believe something really attracted him when he came to the church for the first time.
It's really great. That's really great.
This is it.
It's great. It's great. So how about Lisa? You're up next.
Okay. I am in a university community, and so my congregation draws heavily currently from faculty and people that work at the university. So it's a incredibly well-educated congregation. I would say an inordinate number of PhDs, or a wonderful number of PhDs, and people involved in the university. Some students, but mostly faculty, retired faculty, and people in the administrative end. So kind of a natural draw for us is, and what I've only been in at the church since November. So I'm relatively new to the area and to the congregation, and who we seem to be reaching out to in the community is people who are in the academic world. The congregation values very highly thoughtful and challenging sermons. And then the other kind of strong community that we are drawing, or that we are reaching out to, is it is a very mission and justice oriented congregation, and environmental. We'll have solar panels going in next week, which we're really excited about. So a big commitment to environmental issues. And so we tend to draw and tend to be attractive to reaching out to people who are looking for a justice oriented, environmentally oriented, welcoming church. Today, I actually got an inquiry about how open we were to the LGBT community. This church has historically been very active in supporting LGBTQ issues, and a member of the Covenant Network for years and years and years, and historically, but it's not something that we've necessarily advertised or shared widely. It's just kind of been known. So as I'm thinking about who are a population of people that we might be trying to reach, I think about that community, because I'm thinking about people that are drawn to authenticity, curiosity, openness, and creativity. We also have a lot of artists and some amazing art projects and creative projects that people are doing. So that kind of audience, which would be maybe somewhat related to the academic world, but maybe a different population than would be coming from the university.
Really great. You said that was really, really great. Now, are you all noticing the differences of the communities that you serve? I mean, they've each have their own flavor, and I want you all to see the power of identifying the target and how easy it's going to be to really make some great connections with them. So I think we've got a few more. We're doing really, really good. Mary Camp, how about you? Great job, everyone, so far.
I want to piggyback on what Ebenezer and Lydia said, and Jim. We have a strong history in that our neighborhood wanted to be integrated 60 some years ago. And it began at our church. So our church has been uniquely involved in that. And so we have had a population that is 45 to 55% Black and white, and it's kind of shifted back and forth.
Wow.
I would say for people that we should reach out to or would reach out to, I think spirituality and what Lisa said, curiosity, because I think there are people who have left churches and now they're curious to go back to a church, but may not want to go back to the same situation they had before, as you said. Service, we house a food pantry in our church, and that serves people in the neighborhood in the surrounding area. And people have volunteered there, our members, but other people volunteer too. So that's another draw. I think it's in the 35 to 45 years of age that we draw. And that's also who we'd like to draw. We'd like to draw some people with young families. A deep sense of community. I think that you're really connected with Kennedy Heights. If you say you live in Kennedy Heights or you go to church in Kennedy Heights, people know that you're interested in justice, because that's something that we have always worked in. And it's our reputation too. And we have a lot of creative people at our church as well, artists. Lydia's one, and I'm one.
Really great. Just good, really, really good. This is a phenomenal job. Again, I didn't give you much time. These are just things that you just thought of in like 5 minutes. So this is just really, really good. All right, Peter, how about you? You're next. And Don, you're after Peter, but I'm gonna move you down a little bit just so you can have just some more time to kind of see kind of where people are going. So Peter, how about you?
Lakeside is I would say a primarily white suburban church. In terms of age, it's a broad range. We've got older, but a lot of young families too. So that's what kind of brings folks are drawn to the church because of our children programs and a lot of our nursery school and pre-K and so on programs at the church. So there's a lot of community around that. Some of the things that, there's a real mix of folks from different faith backgrounds. A lot of Baptist, a lot of Catholic, but Muslim, just a variety of different faith backgrounds that are kind of drawn to this particular community. One of the things that drew me here, and I think draw a lot of people here, is kind of the creative aspect, but specifically around music, but the arts as well. There's a lot of professional musicians who love to come and be able to share that gift with the church, and having a place with like-minded individuals is really great to be able to do that kind of share. But authenticity, I've heard a few times, and that's certainly something that can really be lacking in a lot of areas in church world. It's something a lot of people are looking for, and can pretty much spot if you're trying to fake it. It's not hard to do that. Hospitality is something that we're very interested in, both for within the congregation and within the community, feeding those who are not able to feed themselves, or clothing either the homeless or the cold shelter, and then mission in terms of anytime there's a disaster, we'll send folks out to wherever in the country we need to send, and whether it be our youth groups or older adults, we'll all go in together. Kids will learn trades through that process, but also finding ways to give back. So it's a mix. I would say that our current congregation tends to be the group that we're trying to reach, as far as I can tell. But we're always open to where God's leading us.
Hey, Peter, do you have some music in the background?
We do. Our organist stepped in.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, Tom, you gotta.
No, that's fine. Yep. Okay. Oh, that's funny.
So I'll try to mute that out.
No, that's fine. That's that. Oh, I've so been there before. All right. Okay. Thanks, Peter.
So
Thank
you bet. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Francis.
Hi there. Let me get this back up again. My notes. I feel a little bit like a fish out of water here, I guess, as I listen to all of you. And I'll start off by just saying we have not had a new member come to my church in 3 years. So as you talk about how you are growing and the people you're bringing in, we're an elderly, retired business professionals kind of a church. We're in the Rust Belt, in Firestone Park of Akron, Ohio, which means that we are, it used to be Firestone, then is Bridgestone, and then they're not here at all. Our neighborhood is drastically changed socioeconomically, in the last number of years. We right now, if you were to ask my church who is your target, it would be anybody that would be interested in becoming a part of things with us. We feel like we have a great community within our congregation. We feel that that people are friendly and make friends. We began a daycare in our building because we knew there was a local need. We added a blessing box outside that has food 7 by 24 for people who have those needs. We put what we called a community chalkboard up. We put contact paper chalkboard on a whole wall of our building, and had people write what would it help, how could we help the community. That was during COVID when we couldn't get out and talk to people. We thought, well, they could write things, and they did.
Wow.
And so we tried to respond to those kinds of things. And we have people from all over the community who put food in our blessing box, and we have people from the community who come and volunteer time as readers with the daycare, but nobody's interested in joining a church, at least at this point. And so it seems like the people that live around us are highly independent. They don't even necessarily know their neighbors very well. We feel like we're meant to be a community church in our neighborhood, so to speak, which it seems like most of you talked about drawing at least somewhat geographically. It's not, you're not like looking for all of your members to come through just an online connection. So, we're trying to address the geographic area, but we got people that it feels like to us are very independent and don't tend to be joiners. And as I go around and talk to other places in the community, the YMCA, there's a reduction in members there in some of the different any of these places that are groups. It seems like the numbers are down and haven't come back since COVID. So we're struggling with all of that. And I love this concept. I love what you're describing, is that if we can figure out who we want to target and what their needs and who their authority figures are and all of that is really great. I will say right now, I'm just kind of struggling with how do we even get started with that?
Yeah. Well, this is a great start, and I'm really I want to affirm you, because as we've been saying before, doing ministry after a global pandemic is just really hard, and so it's really hard for everyone. But the things that you all have been able to do with contact chalk paper, having people write, you should be proud of the work of that. I mean, you all have really found the daycare center and things like that. Those are great starts. And so don't think that those are all for nothing. I mean, membership, I think in some ways is somewhat obsolete now in terms of how we define engagement. But I think you guys are really off to a good. If you're doing those things, that means you've got some people who are thinking. You got some people who are willing to do some different things. So I don't want you to think it's all for naught. I really think you're at I really want to affirm what you all are doing in ministry. I mean that.
Thanks.
I mean that. And I think we've got two more. Sue, how about you? Sue, you are on mute, and I know you're saying some brilliant things, but we all want to hear you.
It was, and you missed it, and I just can't recreate it. So okay, no, a lot of the people we see come through our doors are actually PCUSA members, either new to the area, looking for a different church. It's not. We don't always see just people from the community. The community we're in has 50,000 members and about 26 churches. So it's a very densely populated, and there's still a lot of people at home on Sundays, though, we know that. And so reaching out and trying to connect on other days of the weeks is important for us. We have a lot of the membership seems to be ex-Catholic. They seem to be very comfortable in our space, and for the message we hear. They are very busy in life in general, professionals, definitely white collars. Generally right now the congregation is around probably close, on average, probably 65 to 75 years is probably the biggest group. And those that we're seeing come through the doors is a mix of unchurched and churched. We're trying to get folks to invite friends. We started early on trying to just say, invite people like you, because that's who we are. And we started at that point. We're seeing younger people come, though, with young kids. They don't come regularly, though, but they appreciate when we reach out and check up on them and just say, hi, hope everything's going well. Just if it's a text or anything, that seems to be received. And then we'll see them back for a couple of weeks, and then they kind of disappear again. So we've got that happening. It seems like they want a connection, but they're not willing to make the commitment to show up every Sunday morning at 10:30.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much our family. Our church considers themselves a family. That we're very friendly. We're very connected with each other, and so we try to not let that even be so strong to inhibit anything else. And we've got some really outgoing people, which helps when new people do come. So, and we also are aware that we don't want to all bombard them and make them afraid to come back. And so as they leave, we try to make sure there's time throughout the service to, passing the peace and all that. It's just that's a big time in our service, quite honestly. When COVID hit and we had to stop that, it was kind of hard. But right now, it's a big piece of our service for people to connect with each other. So it's a very relational church.
Great.
So.
It's really great. Really, really, really great. Thank you. And I think, Don, you are last up.
Good thing I was last. Murphy here decided to sing for the fire truck as it went rumbling.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that, ours is an aging congregation, and like it's been previously mentioned, we are multiracial. We have a larger percentage of Black than white right now, but we have some interracial families that participate. We have participation from the Hispanic community, and not so much since the pandemic. And we even have, even though it's a Black African American, we have a lady from Egypt. Most people don't associate Egypt as being part of Africa, but it is. So what we have been doing is probably reaching, people in our own age group, older, more educated than not. And our most recent member was coming from another Presbyterian church that had recently closed. Not that we're, deep mining that particular prospect, but I think what we're being asked to reach out for is those people that want that sense of community, the creativity that's generated in Kennedy Heights. And they want to be involved, and they want to know, the information that we can provide through them is curated and good and solid, whether it's theological or family, or information on finances or whatever. And to that end, next month we're scheduling a community fun fest afternoon with the kids, whatever. And we're going to have an open mic so people in the community can sign up and, show us their talents, whether it's spoken word or music. Have lots of kids games, some food, and thanks, Lydia. Again, we're half of this group is Kennedy Heights. Hey. And I just wanted to mention that last week you mentioned Crossroads. They're only 2 miles from us.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
So we've had when we had more youth, we had some of them going over there and participating in programs and training, and several of our members have also gone over and participated in their services.
That's cool.
It's totally different than what we do, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's
great.
it's right there in the neighborhood.
Wow. Okay, cool. What a great resource to have close to you. When I was pastoring in New Jersey, I would often take a lot of my members to go visit other churches, just so, number one, so that they could learn what it's like being in a newer church again. Some of them forgot, you when you go to the same church every Sunday, you forget what it's like walking into a new space again. And so I was never afraid to lose. I'm never afraid to lose people to another church. I mean, I would be afraid to lose you to no church. But if you found a place that, hey, go. I think the Lord is big enough, and there's so many people in the world that still need Jesus. That, hey, if you go down to the church, but I'll take them to learn, to see, hey, what was their welcome center like? How'd you feel? Why'd you feel that way? So I always love taking. I always love taking the members of the church to visit other churches. So here's what I want to do. We've got about a little, but we've got about an hour left. So I want to just go through a couple of key learnings, and then I want to we're going to do an exercise where you're going to take your audience, and then we're going to look at some of the key values or major concerns that they have. And then the rest of the people in the group will give you ideas, right? So give an example. So if I'm going to tell you that our congregation, I'll give you, quick reminder, hey, they're between 30 and 45. They're asking these questions about, LGBTQ inclusion. They're asking about justice-related issues, and they're wondering about a safe space for their kids. And then you all are going to look at a list and give me ideas about some things that I might be able to do. So we're going to have about 8 or 9 people who are speaking into giving you ideas. And so, and then we're just going to write them into the chat so that when you leave here, you're going to leave with a bunch of ideas that the rest of your colleagues are going to give you. And I think when we put our minds together, I love doing this part because I don't know what it is. It just personally, sometimes it's hard to come up with your own ideas. But then it's like when my wife and I are preaching, my wife preaches as well. I can always come up with ideas about the sermon she's preaching. And then she can always come up with ideas about sermons that I'm preaching. And we've always wondered, why can't we do that on our own sermons? We get stuck. But I think it's really great to have other people speak into that. So just let me take a few moments just to go over some key learnings that I think will be helpful as we go through this. I want to reiterate a few things. So if you remember, if you remember, and we're going to go back to the slide before we do this. I want you to look at it in a few different ways, because as we talk about how do you engage and add value to the communities that you just named, and they were all so very different. I want you to think about, that's why I tell people ministry is not a one size fits all model, that you've got to be really attuned to the people that God has called you to reach. And so Don, you talked about the church Crossroads is down the street. They've got thousands and thousands of members, but there are people that they will never be able to reach because you offer something dramatically different. And so I think it's great to really clarify and own the people that God is calling us to reach in this season, because we're not just trying to think about how to reach them on Sunday morning, but now you've got access to that very same community 7 days a week, 24 hours of the day, that you can add value to them beyond Sunday morning. And these are just some of the ways, and whether it's the short videos, the webinars, articles or blogs, interviews, you're repurposing content, you're doing something live. You know, Ebenezer talked about doing the live teasers after services. You've got something audio or podcast. What we do with our members now is we're doing a launch. We're opening up another site, and I send them weekly material about starting a different campus. But there's another consultant called Unstuck. That's the name of them. And they come out with a weekly podcast every week. And I don't create new content for them. I send them Unstuck podcast every week as sort of a learning and training material. Because I tried to do that. I said, this is a lot of work. Then I realized, wait a minute, somebody's already done that work, you know? And so we have built training resources designed around what somebody else is already doing. And they could be music, you know? So I want you to take a look at that. Just, we're going to get back at it, but I want you to just remember that. And the reason why I want us to really clarify the audience is because sooner or later, you're going to have to figure out, is this connecting with your audience or not? And what COVID really did is it shifted what it means to really be effective in our ministry. And I would say that the reason why I'm really encouraging people to look beyond Sunday morning is because you can get really depressed if you only look at Sunday morning anymore. And it's not telling the whole story about all of the good work that you're doing in the life of your congregation, right? Francis, I think it was you that talked about you all doing some things on the bulletin boards and daycare centers. You know, on one hand, hey, if we look at Sunday morning, but look at all of this other stuff that we're doing throughout the week. And so I want to really honor that and acknowledge that, because what COVID did is COVID has shifted the conversation that the success of ministry is no longer just by counting the number of people that show up on Sunday morning. That is not an accurate picture of what God is doing in your congregation. And so what people have been asking is, okay, if we can't count that, what are the numbers we should be looking at? Like, what are the numbers that we should be looking at as a congregation? And again, this is not defined or determined by the size of your congregation. So here's what I often tell people is you need to start measuring and keeping track of the things that helps you make decisions, right? That's just one place to start. What helps you make decisions in the life of your congregation? And that's what you should start measuring. So it might be finances. That might be a great way. It might be the number of people who showed up to the food pantry. Like, you need to reevaluate as a congregation the numbers and the data that you're looking at. Now, are we defined by data? Absolutely not. But data is a great way that helps tell a story, right? When I go to the doctor and they're trying to see whether or not my body is healthy, They're looking at certain things. They're looking at my blood pressure. They're looking at my cholesterol, right? They're looking at certain vital signs. And so what I encourage people is to start measuring and taking a look at those things that helps you make decisions. So whatever helps you make decisions in your congregation, that's what you should start paying attention to. Right. And this is what's going to help you, right? How do you know that you are living out your mission and vision? You got to have some ways to know how this is working. I gave you this scenario. I think it was session 1, and this is why the data was so important. Is, remember, I was telling you that at St. Luke's, our consultants said, hey, the people who are moving in your community, they are between the ages of 30 and 45, and they are well educated, and they are to middle to high income earners. They have young families. And so we said, wow, these are the people who are moving into our community in rapid. I mean, there's so much construction and building going on in the Indianapolis suburban areas. I mean, these were the people who were drawn to our congregation. And so the challenging part was, we looked at the number of people that we were connecting with online and on Facebook, and the number one demographic was women over the age of 65. And so that was a measurement that helped us to see that we needed to possibly start doing some different things and having different conversations now, it doesn't mean that we stop reaching women over the age of 65. It just meant that we had to add some additional things to our ministries and to our conversations that would help reach more people in the community, right? So these are just some of the things that I encourage people of what numbers are able to tell, right? Give an example. So what numbers help you tell the story of God more completely, right? This is what hear me very clearly. I'm encouraging all congregations to find other measurements outside of the number of butts you see in the seat on Sunday morning. And so whether if it's, how do you know you're living out your mission and vision? It helps you to know what's working and what's not working. And then, once you get the data, right, what are you going to do with it once you get it? So we have a person at our church who actually just does data. And if I tell her to look up something or to get this data, she will ask not just me, but all of us now. She will ask us, and this is where I got the question from. She will ask me and say, now, once I give this to you, what are you going to do with it? And at first I thought it was I thought the question was rude. I'll be honest with you. Like, you get paid to do data. But what she said was, she says, I get asked to do all these things and pull up all of these numbers about new guests and these various things, and you guys don't ever do anything with them. And so she challenged us to say, if we're really going to start paying attention, then we should use the data in more helpful ways. Because I think what these numbers do is it helps us tell the story of what God is doing in the life of this congregation and the life of this community more completely. I mean, think about it. If you knew, I'll give you an example. So if you're looking at your target demographic and you knew that, man, we have 35 kids now in our daycare. Man, that's that's a great way to just tell the story of God more completely in the life of your congregation, right? And then looking at what are the miracles in those measurements, right? So, man, out of the 35 families that are now in our daycare, three of these families were really in dire need and didn't know how they were going to work and also provide an affordable space for daycare after a pandemic. And yet God led us to this congregation. It was an answer to a prayer, right? Man, that's a great story to tell with the data that we're giving. right? I mean, so in the data, the numbers, right? You are looking for the miracles and the story that's present in that data, because here's what's so powerful about it is you begin to now use that information to create the picture of what God is doing outside of Sunday morning. And then I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. Are there people that you are reaching? Why and why not? I mean, that you can, the data is very straightforward in that. And then how do you define engagement? Francis, I think you talked about, you haven't had a member in 3 years or new member in 3 years. But what I want to encourage you is when you determine what a disciple is in your local congregation, you can no longer define engagement by just how much they come on Sunday morning. But have you taken the time to redefine what it looks like to be actively engaged in the life of your congregation? Right? Have you began to define that? So I want to move to back here a little bit, and here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do, and I think this is always the funnest part to me. So, an example. Let me give you an example of what this might look like. So, you're really talking about how do you add value to your congregation and community outside of Sunday morning. Can you imagine what it will look like to use your avenues outside of Sunday morning? Let's even do something like an article, or let's do a short video. Let's do short videos on next year for back to school, as people are signing up kids for daycare. I think Francis has something with the daycare. You did a 1-minute video on the miracles and the stories that God has been able to do with 2 or 3 of the families that are in that daycare. And they talk about the impact that church has had because they've been able to find a really place that's affordable and that's safe for their children. Now, is it a sermon? Absolutely not. But will it be impactful, transformational, informational, maybe transformative? Sometimes that reaches people so much better than some of our sermons. It allows the community to see what God is doing, and it also allows the congregation to see what their investment has in the life of the community. Right? It doesn't happen on Sunday, but it's about adding value outside of Sunday morning. So we're going to take each of you for about 3 or 4 minutes apiece and kind of go through your own ministries. And I'm just going to leave this up so you can think about them. And we'll kind of go through the same order again. And here's what you're going to do. And I want everybody to sort of pull up your chat because you're going to be writing into the chat. But for the person who is when you are on the hot seat, well, let's call it the blessing seat, because this will feel like a blessing. When you're on the blessing seat, your colleagues and will really give you as many ideas as they can in about a minute, maybe a minute, 2 minutes. We'll kind of see where we are on time. So, for instance, Lydia, you're going to start us off. And Lydia, if you could start us off just by giving us maybe a couple, because you've already answered this before, maybe a couple of the values and maybe some critical questions about life and faith that your target is having. And then we're all going to go into the chat and give you as many answers as we can regarding the list that we see here. So the short videos, webinars, articles, blogs, interviews, are there content we can repurposing? Are there ideas about going live that we might have? we're going to give you as many ideas as we can to help you get started and how you might add value to your community outside of Sunday morning.
Okay,
Does that make sense to everybody?
yeah.
Okay, so Lydia, give us just a quick overview of some of the values and maybe some critical concerns or questions that they might be having about life and faith.
Okay. I think values are justice, service. I think connectedness would be the ones that I would choose.
Perfect. And so
Okay.
what do you think? What do you think some of the critical questions they might be having about life and faith?
Well, I think a lot of the questions would have to do with what's going on in our country politically, and
Great.
and how, as a church, we can address some of these issues or help people deal with some of these issues. I guess another thing is our community is becoming there are lots of younger families, both Black and white, coming into the community because the housing value for the dollar is good.
Okay.
So in the past, we have had people coming into the community with their kids, but then by a certain age, they are moving
They
out.
move out. They move
Yeah,
out.
they're
Mhm.
moving out.
Yep.
And so we're, right now, though I didn't say this before, I don't know when we've had a new member. We have people come and people go. Sometimes there are people who have been involved with the church through their family in the past. We had one young man who has like 4 or 5 kids now, and his grandmother was like a big person in the church when he was a young man. So he comes and he goes and he comes and he goes. He will have babies baptized. He'll go away. But and I know he's looking for something, and I'm not quite sure what, but I do know he likes to come in. He likes for people to see his kids and notice his kids, and they're wonderful kids.
Yeah.
But I know that's part of it. But I guess part of what I think he's looking for is some kind of a connectedness, a community, something to surround them, I
Okay.
think is what he's looking for.
All right.
But
So
I'm not sure.
so Lydia, that's really great. And we're gonna go to the chat and we're going to give you some ideas of
Okay,
what we think. And I think Lisa already gave us some. Lisa already started us off. So we're gonna take about. If somebody wants to play some background music, you can do that. I don't know if Peter, if your organ guys.
Sorry, I moved into another room.
Oh, you did. Okay, man. Okay.
Because the choir moved in
Oh,
shortly thereafter.
man.
I'm like,
Oh, man.
I know you won't be able to hear a thing.
Yeah. So we're gonna go to the chat. And Lisa, you did a great job at starting us off, at giving us an example. And Lydia, I want you to take notes on what we might think. And I'm gonna set my timer. I'm gonna set my timer for 2 minutes max. Now, if it starts weaning before 2 minutes, we'll just kind of cut
Let's
off
go
and
on.
the next person. But that's all we need is 2 minutes, and you get to see the ideas that we might have. So you've listened to it, and I'm starting the clock. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's get the ideas going. All right, that's my 2 minutes. I didn't know I had that as a motorcycle. All right. Man, my kids must have been playing with this. All right. Good. So, welcome to the area, or re-welcome to the area that tells personal stories, right? Favorite restaurants, parks, where community can be built. It's really good. I put, some things around how to make friends and connections as adults. This can be in-person experiences geared with that language, or short webinars, food and game nights to build relationships. That's really good. Have hospitality, do regular phone calls to members to see how they're doing with their concerns. I put articles dealing with faith and justice. There's so much out there now with dealing with that. You all don't have to really create much. You can use articles and blogs of examples of how different churches live out their call to justice through faith. You could find and repurpose articles and content with work-life balance. There's so much out there with that as well. I think that's really, really good considering your audience. Visit new families that move into the neighborhood and take a welcome basket. I think that's really great. And some things around how to know your neighbors. I think that's really good as well, because I think we're living in a culture now where neighbors, depending on your community, don't naturally connect with each other. And having some stuff around how to get to know your neighbors is really good. I think that's a great. Now, we just did that in 2 minutes, right? We just did that in 2 minutes. And Lydia, I think you may be able to come away with 1 or 2 things, because now when you're sitting down and thinking about how to plan your year, when again, we're not looking at 52 weeks, we're looking at those critical concerns in our audience to see how we might add value on Sunday morning. And now we're not limited to just 52 Sundays. You can choose 8 of these things and find ways to do them either on different days of the week or different times of the year, or you do them and then you put them up so people can view them later. The same way that we're doing this. People, do a Zoom group and they put them up on YouTube and people can watch them at their leisure. So this is good. Thank you all so much for doing this. Lydia, was that okay for you? Was that somewhat helpful to you?
Yes.
Yep, that's
Yes.
really good. Okay. So next on my list that I see on my screen is James Walker and wife Kate. All right. So James and wife Kate, you're up next, and just give us just really high points of your audience, maybe just a couple key values and critical questions, and then we'll give you some ideas.
Well, I think we have an opportunity with our Fun Fest coming up to interact with some people in the community. Could be an opportunity to display their interests or concerns through some web-based means.
So listen, you don't have to give the ideas yet, because
Okay.
we're gonna that's what we're gonna do for you, and we're gonna be working for you for 2 minutes. So you don't even have to. We just want to know maybe some high key points of those values you talked about before, and maybe some critical questions about life and faith that community might be having.
Values you talked about before.
Well, I think we see our church as a friendly church. So one of the values I think we want to attract is people who are interested in that. The smaller church, Crossroads, is a huge church. They do break out small activities. Also, I think our church would like to have more service activities. I think that's one of the attractions of some of the other churches.
Okay.
We'd like to attract younger folk as well. We don't have any hip hop music in our service. I think a lot of youth are interested in that.
So let me ask you a question. So when you think about the people you just named, what might be some key questions that they might be asking about faith?
I think a lot of people are struggling with the ideal of God giving us money or resources, not giving it to us, but sort of it belongs to God, and we are sort of custodians of that. But the important thing is relationships with others. So looking for that amongst the community members. What are they seeking when they're going to a local restaurant, for instance, to socialize rather than going to church?
Yeah.
They're used to doing that perhaps every Sunday instead of coming into a traditional service.
Okay. Well, listen. Let's take this, and I think we can really focus around community, focus around resources, and I'm even thinking when you mentioned about hip hop, I'm thinking about maybe those voices of authority as well. So Ben, so let's take that. I'm going to set my clock for 2 minutes. I've got tons of ideas that are going on. So let's take 2 minutes and let's do it. I'll start the clock.
Right, where am I?
All right. Okay, we're moving right through these. I see there might have been okay, so good. Let me just go through these really quickly. So I put some things around. James, you mentioned about you don't play hip hop music during service, and I think for a lot of congregations that might be a difficult transition, and a lot of times it's sort of bring in some of those key values outside of Sunday. I mean, for a lot of, depending on what type of congregation you have, that might split a church, or there might be ways of, using those voices. I mean, even something as simple as a lot of people now are doing I was watching a podcast with LeBron James talking about the importance of friendships and surrounding your people with really positive people. And I was like, man, that's a really great message. And there might be different ways where you can bring in those same voices that they listen to. They give really positive messages that you can just repost on you guys' page, whether if it's that or even popular sayings and then, you tying it to a biblical message. Drake says, we started from the bottom, now we're here. What it'll look like to do something around, sometimes we start from the bottom, but God brings us to different places that we never even imagined. Now, taking maybe popular songs and giving like a 1-minute message, a popular message to them, neighborhood block party, provide music, food, and family. I imagine you guys doing the cha-cha slide and be a fun type of place. Tons around money and resources. If you think they have if you think that your community has questions and concerns around resources, there are tons of things that I think you can do. An interview series around saving and investing. A lot of times we don't talk about that in certain communities. And I think that might be a great way to connect with them. Bring your favorite music to church on Sunday, kind of reinvention of an old-fashioned hymn sing. Absolutely. Use hip hop sayings to, again, tied to religious messages. So there you go. You got some ideas to get sparked. All right, let's move it right along. And Lisa, I got you next on my screen, and I would ask if you could give us a quick, because I want to make sure we get through everybody today, and we've got 28 minutes. So if you can give us a quick rendition of 1 or 2 key values and maybe 1 or 2 key questions and concerns they're asking, and then we'll start working for you.
Great. I'm going to do a very focused one. And that is our commitment to environmental stewardship is an important value for our congregation and an important value in our area, and how we might better communicate that to the community, who I think also appreciates that value. We see it as a theological issue, stewardship of creation, also financial, and also kind of our being a responsible citizen, global citizen. And so how might we share that value better?
Got it. Okay, let's get to working. This is really good. This is really good.
I don't know where I am. No.
Uh-oh. Somebody, we can hear you.
Yeah, say nothing to me. You come here, please, quietly. Come here. I'll turn that. No, come here. Come. Wait a minute, maybe this is.
What, somebody might need to mute.
Yeah. See. This is you here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get back to the southern. There we go.
You're in chat.
Somebody might need to mute. All right. That's good. All right. I think you got a lot of opportunity for repurposing content, tons of them, because there's so much out there. and like really good stuff. I really like this idea of so where did I start off with? Environments, yeah. I put lives in terms of going out in the community and getting people to talk about how they like live that out at home or their jobs, like real people. Everybody's talking about how to start a community garden. That's really, really cool. That people can like start that at their homes and like really providing some resources around that. I think that'd be really cool. You can start that at schools, at jobs. I mean, you can do that. So you can do that so much. And I kind of piggybacked on that in blogs and articles in terms of how to's. I think sometimes people don't do it because they don't know how. And so even something, how to recycle or what to recycle or, just some different things about how to that I think would be really, really great for people in terms of environmental justice. A website, video clips and articles on climate change and solar energy. That's really, really cool. That's really great. And a lot of it you don't even have to make because there's so much out there. And are there books that people can read and join a Facebook group? Facebook groups don't cost, and getting people in your community to host something. We did something around what was the name of it? Around becoming an anti-racist church, and you did something in the community around becoming, some name of it and providing resources for your community about how to do that. I think, and then join that Facebook group where people who are involved in that can really gather to that. I think it'd be really cool. Keep learning about environmental resources in your community and share those. I think that's really cool. People are already doing it. Because one thing that will help you is when you start sharing other people's stuff, they become really interested in you. The people in your own community, like who's already doing that work. This is really good. What can I do? Bring in speakers and innovators to discuss global green strategies, video, solar. This is really great. This is really, really good. Thank you. Lisa, was this somewhat helpful to you? This is really good. She just chose one. Yeah, she just chose one thing. And then with that one thing, we're able to do we're able to create some good stuff. Now, a couple of you here are from the same church. Who's from the same church? So Mary, Don, and Ebenezer, y'all from the same church?
Lydia and Jim.
Lydia
and Jim.
And Jim are from the same church.
All of us are from the same church.
Okay, let me widen up my screen so I can see everybody. Okay, here we go. So how many of you are you from, was it Heights?
Kennedy Heights.
So raise your hand if you're from Kennedy Heights. Oh, you are 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
And then
5. Okay, you are highly represented. So for those of you in Kennedy Heights, we've gone with a couple of you. So I'm going to skip you now. And I might come back to you if we have time. But I want to get the people who are not from Kennedy Heights to make sure that we get them as well. So I have Francis, Don, and Peter. You are not from Kennedy Heights, correct?
Don is from Kennedy Heights.
Oh, Don. Oh, man. Okay. So Mary, are you from Kennedy Heights too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So this is really just consulting with Kennedy Heights. I get it. Okay. So let's go with Peter.
I'm not from Kennedy Heights.
Said that.
Francis.
Yeah, Francis. Okay. So let's go with Francis and Peter. Let's make sure we get you, right? Let's make sure we get you. Because I think at least the people from Kennedy Heights have already, they've got some good things going. But then let's go with you. So Francis, just give us a little bit about some of the values and critical questions that they might be having. Think about those families in the daycare. Like, what are some things that they might be wondering?
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to switch over to the blessing box. And the reason I'm going to share that one with you is that when we put the contact paper chalkboard up on the wall of the building outside, and people were writing their notes, the most common thing people wrote is, "We're hungry, we need food." That was the most common thing that people wrote up there. And so that led us to install this blessing box, which is just a big box that we put food in 7 by 24, and we just have a sign that says, "Take what you need, leave what you can." And what we found is that the community has kind of adopted this as their place as well as us. They feel a strong sense of ownership. You will, on social media, we have had people who have put a little mini video. You talk about these short clips, who've put little videos out of having their kids help stock it. People will bring food, and show that they are helping to fill it, as well as the people who need to take things, of course, come and take things. But people are bringing things. We even had a person note out on social media that they automatically, because of their income, there's a program in Akron where they deliver a box of food to people's homes once a month. Well, it's a standard box, and not everybody, they send you things that you may not be even able to eat. You may have an allergy to it or something, but boxes are all the same. Everybody gets the same box of food if they're in need of food. So we even had a person who wrote out on social media, "Well, you folks, I take out what I can eat of the box they give me, and then I take the rest of it and bring it over to you, to your blessing box, so that even though I'm not able to use it, other people can." So it seems to have really taken on kind of a life of its own. But the challenge we face, though, is that most of these people see no connection of that to any kind of religion or faith or action like that. In our church, we talk about how, Matthew 25 and the whole tie-in to that kind of thing. But, these other people who are giving, it's just a nice thing to do to help people. And we wish there was some way to tie it together. And I understand that, you can't always do that. And we are grateful that they've become a part of things with us, regardless of where they might be in terms of even thinking they need to have anything transcendent in their lives, like a faith or anything like that. But that's one of the things that we wish we could find a way to somehow maybe connect those things for people.
Okay. So I was already going while you were, so I'm gonna set the clock. This is really, really, really great, Francis. Really, really great. So let's get 2 minutes and let's go. I've started us off with a couple. I'm writing my last sentence. Okay, got it? Okay. Very good. I see some. Okay, as you were talking, I talked about are there stories to tell about the impact that people have, both the givers and the receivers? So the people who give to sort of this blessing box, how it has really been a blessing to them, and even people who sometimes willing to share about the impact that the blessing box has had on their families as well. And I think that's telling those stories and adding value. Can't always do it on Sunday morning, but man, I think that's a great room there. Tons of teaching around the impact of hunger. I remember reading something one day that talked about the percentage of kids who go to school hungry and how it impacts their learning capacity. And most kids don't go to school with a healthy meal. I think you do live series on feeding the hungry, interviews with partners in the community, people who developing partners and talk about the impact that they have. Blog posts that tie in faith and action. I think that's very good. I think that's really good because it's not just about hunger, but faith and action. I think that's a really great angle to get people talking about that. Choose a few times a year, maybe harvest, Christmas, holiday, end of school year, to do a media blitz, radio stations, TV stations, papers, to do a profile. I like this idea of like harvesting. I think there's some really great language around there. Repost songs about overcoming and hunger. Can you invite the community to watch movies and talk back sessions around hunger? I think there's sometimes a lot of really great movies around people who've been in dire situations, and then the impact the community has had. And that might just be a great way. Hey, this Sunday or this Wednesday, we invite you to watch so-and-so, and then we'll have a live talk back online about that movie. Tell stories about interacting with people receiving, anonymity, important. And sometimes people will actually share their story. I think anonymity is important, but I've met a lot of people who will say, no, I want to tell people about how important this was to me. Housing showers, that's great. Interview community leaders around attacking the root cause of hunger. You might people who say, here's, whether it's your local council person, your mayor, hey, would you give us a Zoom interview for 20 minutes to see as a community how we can combat hunger? I'll bet you hundreds of people will watch that. Place a note with a verse about giving for the hunger and take the name off of the church and the times of different services, activities, church. Yep. And Mary Kim is heading out. Many suggestions. Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, this is really great. This is really, really great. And thank you all so much for doing that. Francis, was this somewhat helpful to you?
Very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Again, maybe you don't take any of it, but maybe it sparks. Some ideas. What I'm hoping you do is, even if you don't take the ideas, maybe take the process back to your leaders, or maybe back to a really good group who you think has ideas. And sometimes just every once in a while say, hey, maybe every quarter you just take an issue and you just have people, and don't give them too long to think, because sometimes you give people too long and they're so worried about coming up with the perfect idea. But sometimes you just take an issue, maybe it's, how do we connect with these people on Sunday morning? Bam, let's take 3 minutes, boom, 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 and you do this. So Peter, let's have you go next with Peter, and I think we can start wrapping up after that.
Okay. One of the key elements that our church, I mentioned this earlier, is music. Our focus has been to try to do a really great traditional music service, as opposed to, a lot of our neighbors have gone more contemporary, and we sort of doubled down, and we installed a $1.2 million organ that folks all around the world have come to see. CCM brings their students over to use the facility. We bring in a lot of community choirs and things like that that use the space and use the facility, and the congregation members who are all part of those various groups came here because of the musical program that's at Lakeside. So it's kind of a key piece of who we are as a community. And on top of that, I would say moving then towards hospitality. I know that we had a lot of folks talk about, homeless, but not only hospitality in terms of food, but hospitality in terms of caring for those in other ways, more than just feeding. We have a lot of AA groups that use our space. Overeaters Anonymous. We have our space is used. Talking about not just on Sundays. I mean, we are packed throughout the week with organizations and groups that use various building parts of the building to hold their meetings and stuff like that. And it's something that we're very centered on, trying to make sure that if that those spaces are available for the community.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we've got 2 minutes, and let's do it. All right. Okay.
Wow, lots of good stuff in there. Thanks, guys.
So I'm just oh yeah. So I started off by talking about we have a really big traditional service, and what is often our pastor is really good with history, and he pulls out these he loves hymns, and he often tells us these stories. We did a sermon series around this actually, where they chose like a popular hymn, and we built a sermon around the story. And I'm amazed at like the powerful stories behind these hymns, and like they're not just words,
Right.
but they're like, I remember there's somebody like son or like died on the ship, or while they were out at sea, and it was just like some amazing things. And I thought like, man, what would it look like to use that content to do some things around?
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's just, and then I talk about actually using the organ to do like short clips. Because sometimes, I think the beauty of the music, if they only just show up on Sunday morning, they might miss it. But are there some things that you can do to either bring in different musicians to play a song on the organ that you would post, or even have like a, can you name that tune? Maybe play like a popular tune that they might have to figure out, something or another. Develop electronic community bulletin board, sharing activities of your partner organizations, asking them to promote your children's activities, cross promote. Yeah, that's a great idea. Different musicians that bring in and play music, yeah, or invite, have a music Sunday, or once a month have time and service when people can request a favorite hymn to be sung. Yeah, cool. I talked about doing interviews with different musicians. I think that might be pretty cool. If you guys spend a lot of money on that organ, and this is the challenge too, you spend a lot of money on it. How can you 1.2 million can't just be for Sunday morning,
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Help people understand the theology and spirituality of hymns while we sing them. I think that's really cool, and there's a lot of potential around that. I'm even thinking, pulling out, what would it look like to take a hymn, a really popular hymn, and pull out a line of it and do like an explanation of that. What does it mean to like raise my Ebenezer? What in the world is that? Have a series, crazy things that you never knew about hymns. Make it fun too, because I think sometimes with traditional we always think stuffy.
Right.
But what may be some quirky things in hymns you may bring out for check with local colleges to bring in music students to share their talents. That's a really great idea too, because it's almost like this idea of taking traditional music and making it intergenerational and showing the importance of it to younger generations as well. That's why I talked about, name that tune, and then invite local public school students to see and hear the organ. I think that might be really cool too. Providing spaces so that in different content so that I think it's a great space for intergenerational things, making it fun, not just for your people who traditionally love the kind of music, but finding creative ways to introduce that kind of music to younger generations.
True.
That I think you could really do as well.
But traditional can be broad too.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of traditional is, you give a various group, the tradition can be different.
Yeah. No, this is great. This is great. This is great. This is great. So listen, I hope that was helpful to you. I know we didn't get through everybody, but literally 5 of you are from the same congregation. And I'm hopefully you'll be able to take some of the ideas. Again, this was really just a practice of how we were able to take, and again, we only did this with you for 2 minutes, but this was really just to show how you take all of the material that we talked about reaching new audiences and engaging your current congregation, and how do you move. Now, if you noticed, here's what you noticed. None of you talked about a sermon series. Did you notice that? None of you said preach a sermon series on X, Y, and Z, but you started to look at other ways outside of Sunday morning to develop ways to reach new people and to engage your current congregation outside of Sunday morning. And you were able to come up with at least a couple different ideas in 2 minutes. Now imagine if we did a retreat at a nice place, or we went to a local restaurant with your leaders who know your community much better, right? Who are intimately involved in the life of your congregation, who know that. Imagine of all the ideas that they would be able to come up with given this information. And for those of you who are on the call, I will say, if you need me, then say, hey, give me a call, shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm doing this with my group. Can you go through the steps with me again? Can you send me some of the slides? I'll be more than happy to do that with you, right? If you say that you're going to meet with your group and use some of this material, you just shoot me a call or email, and I'll have a phone call with you free of charge. Nothing. Don't think about hey, we'll go through, we'll set the framework for you, and we'll make sure that you do well with that conversation. This is about people of Christ helping each other, building the kingdom of God. And that's what I think God has called me to do. And that's what I know that God has called you to do, because you've been here for 2 or 3 weeks, because you care and love about your congregation. So listen, I hope these last 3 weeks were helpful to you as you move forward in ministry, and look at how do you do ministry after a global pandemic, right? How do you add value to your congregation 7 days a week? How do you add value to your local community and beyond, not just on Sundays, but using the other days to be strategic about how you reach them? So any last words? If not, I'll close us out in prayer, and then I'll send you back to Jim.
So
I clicked on the three dots in the chat at the bottom, and then it comes up save chat, and then I clicked on save chat, and that put it into my directory.
That's great.
I'm not an expert, but that's what happened.
That's great. That's great. So I would invite you all to do that. Yep, says chat saved, and you can save it in a different folder on your computer.
Yvonne, how can we reach you?
Oh, I'll put my information into the chat, and then you can go through and save it there too.
But we want to say thank you. Thank
My
you
pleasure.
so much. Thank you for investing your time and talent into this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. It has been a joy being with you all. This is something that I absolutely love to do. StLukes.com. So that's my phone number, my email, 862-333-6. Oh, sorry, that's not my phone number. 333-6992. So that's my phone number. And that's my email, javon.caldwell-gross@stlukesumc.com.
Yvonne, thank you.
Yeah. So let me know if you need me. Even if it's just a text message. Hey, got a question or something. Hey, don't feel like I'm not accessible. I'm giving you my phone number so you can use it. I mean that. So listen, God, I pray that each and everybody that you have sent here, I'm thinking of not just them, but I'm thinking of all of those people in those communities who need them, who need to hear the gospel, and who are just starving during this time, not just for physical resources, but spiritual ones as well. And so I pray that maybe a seed was planted tonight that will be the answer to someone's prayer. And so I pray that you open up our minds and our imaginations so that we can see the world differently, our ministries differently, and even the possibilities differently. So I'm grateful for this time and excited for what you're going to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Yep. Thank you all so much. Again, if you need me, let me know.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Got it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all. Have a great night.
Take care, everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you.
take care.
Mhm.